So here's a question for you. Would you benefit from ongoing support to improve your bottom line and ultimately help you master the business of practice ownership? Tracy Trapesky International offers you a proven, impeccably designed method to scale your practice while preserving your most precious assets, your time and energy. We blend business consulting with executive leadership to bring you what you need most to help you become an agile, entrepreneurial CEO while serving your patients with the utmost attention to their care. You receive individualized coaching and support from me and our professional team, providing the best of business consulting and executive leadership coaching to grow your practice without working more. Schedule your complimentary 45-minute strategy call at tracytrapesky.com. Welcome to Thriving Practice. I'm your host, Tracy Trapesky, and I can't wait to introduce you to our incredible guests and to share business tips and strategies that will help make your life easier and support you in becoming the exquisitely fulfilled CEO you're meant to be. I am on a mission to help practice owners take back one day per week for the rest of their careers so they can focus on healing their patients and maximizing their profits. No more sacrificing your personal life or feeling burnt out. It's time to take back control and create the practice of your dreams. Whether you're a seasoned provider or just starting out, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable advice and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the hidden potentials within your practice and propel you towards the success and freedom you crave. So, if you're ready to transform your practice, make a lasting impact, and reclaim that one day per week for yourself, then you're in the right place. Let's embark on this journey together. Welcome, dear listeners, to another fantastic and inspirational episode of Thriving Practice. It's me, Tracy Trapesky, and I am thrilled to have you join us today. As you know, Thriving Practice is your podcast for all things related to the business of running a healthcare practice. Our mission is to support practice owners like yourself who often find themselves juggling the demands of being both a business leader and a medical provider. We're here to provide you with the practical tips, tools, and expert insights that will help you not just survive, but thrive in your practice. Our greatest desire for you is to achieve a sense of exquisite fulfillment in all areas of your life and business. In honor of National Physical Therapy Month here in the US, we have an extraordinary guest joining us today. Dr. Gianna Bigliani is joining us, and her journey is nothing short of inspiring. Dr. Bigliani is a doctor of physical therapy, a board-certified orthopedic clinical specialist, and a certified strength and conditioning specialist. She's the founder of Fluid Physio, LLC, and her story is a testament to the power of determination and innovation in healthcare. I am thrilled and honored to work with her as a client of ours and to have her join us as a featured expert guest today. Dr. Bigliani's story begins in Bogotá, Colombia, but it's a journey that took her far beyond the place of her birth. As a teenager, she, along with her parents, set out on a quest for a better life and ended up in the United States. Her educational journey led her to Temple University, where she was a dedicated member of the crew team for 4 years. Her passion for helping people and a fascination with the human body's remarkable ability to move through life led her down the path of physical therapy. She returned to Temple University, completed her Doctor of Physical Therapy degree, and even pursued an Orthopedic PT Residency. Today, Dr. Bigliani is an adjunct faculty member at Drexel University, where she shares her expertise in strength and conditioning and periodization for performance. Since 2007, Dr. Bigliani has been changing lives. She specializes in treating individuals with chronic conditions, injuries, and pain, often those who haven't found relief through traditional treatments. Her ultimate goal is to maximize everyone's performance and enhance their quality of life. Now, here's where Dr. Bigliani's story takes a fascinating twist. She not only excels in her profession, but also in her entrepreneurial journey. Dr. Bigliani shows how she faced the challenge of being fired from a traditional practice because they saw her building her practice on the side, which she had fully disclosed. You'll hear this in the interview. But once she was legit with a website, they let her go. So instead of seeing this as a setback, she seized it as an opportunity and hasn't looked back since. From traveling to patients' houses to needing her own space, Dr. Bigliani's practice, Fluid Physio, has grown from traveling to an 8-foot by 10-foot setting to now a 1,000-square-foot office space, and they're quickly outgrowing that as well. She is redefining the way patient care is delivered and the way therapists are employed. While she's a total go-getter, Dr. Bigliani knows that she can't do it all on her own, and that's where our paths crossed. I have the privilege and honor of serving her as her personal business coach, and together we've charted an exciting path for her practice's growth and scale. She also leans on other professionals, including her trusted accountant, who helps her make complex financial decisions, and a marketing consultant whose digital campaigns have ignited another wave of growth at Fluid Physio. Today, we're exploring Gianna's philosophy of patient care, her unique approach to employment opportunities for therapists, and the incredible team she's built at her practice. Her journey is a testament to the power of resilience, innovation, and the support of a network of professionals. So without further ado, let's dive in to this episode and learn from the wisdom of Dr. Gianna Bigliani as she shares her journey of transforming a healthcare practice and thriving against the odds. You know what to do. Grab a beverage or a snack and settle in to listen to Gianna and her amazing journey. Gianna, it is so good to have you on the show. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to have someone like you invite me to come and speak with some of the other guests that you have. It's truly an honor.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, full disclosure for our listeners, Gianna is a current client. Sometimes I don't interview current clients, but you are a physical therapist. And October, time of recording in the US, the health focus is on PT awareness. And so I thought it would be really great to bring you on the show because you're amazing at what you do. You're a wonderful human being and you run a great business. And so I would love to just share your story and share your journey with our listeners.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. But before, before we started working together, I should say, I listened to a bunch of your podcasts and I looked at all the people and all the incredible stories that they had to tell. And that's where I'm coming from in the sense that like, oh, wow, like to me, you're putting me up there with those people that I was like looking up to. And so sometimes it's nice to be reminded that like, oh yeah, I can inspire others. So thank you for having me and being able to tell my story.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's interesting, like to hear that feedback, because I sometimes, even just like a little disclosure for, the stuff we work through and our own beliefs, like sometimes I pinch myself and I go, wow, our guests are these amazing people at the top of their professional game, and they perceive me and my team at the top of our professional game. I'm like, hold on a minute, we are.
Yes.
So here we are, like, water seeks its own level, so to speak. So yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on and share your story. But before we dive into like all the good stuff, tell us where you're located.
We are located in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. It's right next to Princeton. Everybody knows where Princeton is. So
yeah,
right there.
Cool. Great location.
Yes.
Beautiful. Great clientele, which we'll get into, right?
Close to New York and Philadelphia. So
nice.
Highways right there. And that is definitely helpful. But at the same time, you mentioned location and clientele. It was important to me because initially, I'm right next to Princeton. This is great. But it's not necessarily the case.
Interesting. Really interesting.
Yes.
So I want to explore that. But before, tell us the name of your practice and a little bit about it, and what inspired you to become a doctor of physical therapy. Where did that come from?
Fluid Physio is our physical therapy practice. I'll start from the beginning. What inspired me to be a physical therapist is I've always had this wonder about the human body. And so for undergrad, I did exercise physiology. I became a strength and conditioning coach. And then I got bored. I was also a rower, and I had an injury with my back in college. And so that really was the first time that I got to really look inside and be like, oh my gosh, these doctors are showing up once a week at college, but the football team gets the first pick. And so I would be there with my hurt back and here, pop these pills and you'll be fine. And it turns out that wasn't the case. I being in my major, one of my professors, she is also a world-renowned sports psychologist. And for the life of me, I can't remember her name right now. But she worked with me individually, knowing through my struggles, and sort of did a lot of meditating imagery. And I did a lot of self introspection of like, oh, what is going on? And that's sort of like my first bit. Then I got bored, went to grad school because I got tired of training athletes and was like, oh, these are healthy people, boring. Oh, grad school. And in grad school is when I realized I always wanted to work with sports and outpatient orthopedics. It was just fast paced. And I realized that like, oh, I have to touch people. And that was an interesting sort of thing for me, that I'm from Colombia, South America. And so you kiss everyone, hello, cheek kissing. But the touch itself, like putting your hands on people, was oh, I guess this is what I'm signing up for. Anyways, became a physical therapist and always loved the next part. And so a couple of years into it, I decided to do a residency in orthopedics. And that's when I really started to see that, wait a second, it's not just about, here's the exercises, let me stretch you, see you later, do your homework. It's more about function and how we move in our body through our own life. And that movement, while it's exactly the same because we're all human beings, we each have our own little individual nuances, whether it's because we were born with you end up with scoliosis, or you're born with cerebral palsy and it makes you have different movement issues, or because, like me, you're a mom and you do 10,000 different things all the time and you don't have a chance to let your body get restored. We all have these individual nuances that when I was a traditional physical therapist, I would be working. And I ended up with all these skills in the residency where I learned more manual therapy. And I was like, wait, but I can't do it because I have to do my work on someone and then watch two other people while they do their exercises. So I found that to be just like, is this really like, there can't be it. No way this like, I can't provide the treatments that I was taught, that I went to school and 6-figure debt for, and that I believe will help people in their daily life. So there's got to be a better way. And so long story short, the practice I was at was bought by someone else. And in the midst of that, it was a very like, oh, you have to sign a contract, 2 years, non-compete, 10-mile radius. And where I am in the Princeton area as an orthopedic clinical specialist, 10 miles, that's basically Princeton and Hamilton's another town that we were at. And I wasn't about anything else. You just sort of go outside and it's like, it's Trenton, which is totally opposite of Princeton, if you think about the demographics. And then there's like farms. And then Pennsylvania, while it's close, I live right next to the river, it's another license, it's PA. So I was like, wait a second. And also it's just physical therapy in Pennsylvania hasn't evolved as quickly as it has in New Jersey, where we are more of our individual practitioners that can practice without a doctor's prescription. Once you get into insurances, it's a little different. So I said, there's got to be something else. And I decided, you know what, this isn't what I want. I'm gonna start something. And so many people said to me, like, wait, you're gonna do this without accepting insurances? And I said, yes, because I don't want, so insurances then would also guide you. Oh, well, you're gonna get 12 visits. Well, within the 8 years that I practiced for other companies, I started to see that those 12 visits became 8 visits, became 4 visits. And you had X amount of minutes to work with someone, then they wanted to do a progress note to justify why you were doing it with people. But I'm training like 3 people at the same time. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
So I started Fluid Physio little by little, doing it after I worked 4 days a week. So the one day I didn't go into the office, I would work on Fluid Physio. And I was, full disclosure to my bosses, I said, hey, I'm starting this. I'm going to see people in their homes. This has nothing to do with you guys. And since you just purchased this practice, I'm happy to help, because it's a different, they used to work down by southern, like a little bit more south of here, which is different physicians, different healthcare systems. So when I told them that, they got really angry. It was me sitting in, I will never forget, in a plastic chair with the 2 owners in the big comfy, office chairs. And I just felt like this little person, like, oh my God, yeah, I'm not doing that. And that actually fed more into it. I just didn't want someone telling me how to treat my patients. And that was 2016. My thought was like, oh, part-time, and then I'll start the practice. But in April, they found out that I had a website, and they definitely didn't like that. So they fired me. And that was the biggest, best blessing ever. It was very scary. And there were weeks that my mom had to help us with getting groceries. But that was basically, like, for me, the only way was to succeed. There was no failure. That didn't even register. And I started out seeing patients in their homes, one at a time. And then it got too far because not everything's really close. So then I was like, oh, I need a space. So I joined a networking group. And then by August, I had a little tiny 8x10 office space. Nice. And that's fun. So before I got fired, is basically I had a couple of months to get the basis of it, get how am I going to do documentation? What is my super bill going to do? Because I knew that while I'm not going to bill insurances, I still wanted to provide a receipt, or what we call a super bill, excuse me, that patients had to be able to provide their insurance and get their reimbursement, which is what they pay for in their insurances. And I did not anticipate how quickly we were going to grow. I started out with 8 hours a week of admin help, and I hired a therapist by, I don't think I'd even turned 1 year old yet, because I couldn't do it all. And within a year of that August, so by 2017, in August, we had moved into the space that we're in right now, about 1,000 square feet. Right now I have 2 therapists working for me. We see one-on-one, 1 patient an hour. We focus on manual therapy and movement reeducation. And we truly look at the whole person, not just their injury. And that has been sort of my goal from the beginning was, I want to start Fluid Physio because I want to help the patients. I really want to help the people get the care they need on their own terms, right? Some people don't like exercises. Okay, well, I'm going to call them activities. And they did their activities. People are busy, people, whatever it is. And truly listening to what people need. So once I sort of realized the power of touch, that it's not just going in there and provide spine manipulations, mobilizations, a soft tissue release. It's by touching someone, you go deeper, and the stories that people tell me and how I've helped them go beyond being able to sit cross-legged, but be able to sit cross-legged to meditate at the beach because they're mourning their still living husband that they can't leave behind. Like, it's just beyond my imagining. And so I thought, I was like, okay, well, why? I mean, I went to school for physical therapy. Why? What about then the transition to my practice was, well, then what about not just, yes, people will get better, but what about then becoming a business, having Fluid Physio be the place where physical therapists can come and be the best physical therapist they can be. And so while I realized initially that I had to do little bits of everything, I also realized that in order to grow, I couldn't do it myself because I had kids at home. And I started to being in that networking group allowed me to be like, oh, you do this for accounting? Oh, I didn't even know I needed this. Oh, you are the real estate for commercial? Oh, that's interesting. I just thought it was the real estate. Oh, you're the insurance guy? That's right. I need workman's comp now. And I realized that there was so much out there that I did not. My focus was to be the best manual physical therapy place in the area. And that's all I kept remembering. And just really is this moment of doing, I don't know, is me trying to plan a sign for my upcoming workshop worth my time to be the best manual physical therapy place? No, I'm going to get a designer. Oh, guess what? And she needs physical therapy too. So then bartering became a thing. And I realized on that just community and the power of community as well. So that was a long story.
I love it. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, a few things stand out to me. One was you had the experience of being in a traditional setting, and it's not necessarily bad, right? We're not on some binary that traditional is bad and something else is good. But for you as a therapist coming into really, I think, here comes my coach hat, really thinking about what you really, really want and what is your mission and what is your vision and what are you most connected to. I have the experience of talking with you about and learning about what you do. So I am hearing you say you wanted to make that connection with your patients. You also want to provide an environment where other therapists can come in and really, really make a difference. And I'm going to throw all the shade at the insurance industry because I have a lot to say about that, but it definitely puts providers in a hamstrung position to decide between adhering to what's expected or helping their patients get better and actually heal. And so, big insurance guys, you hear us here. Like, this is a challenge, right? And yes, we need insurance or we need some kind of healthcare provision, right? Mm-hmm. But here you are finding a way to work around that. And I'm hearing you say that it's for you, which let's toot that horn, because we've often, we're taught as service providers to put ourselves somewhere else that was always taking care of other people. But this is what you wanted, to be happy in your career and to love what you do, to continue loving what you do. You're doing it because you want to help patients. You want to help actual human beings return to a healthy state, or even come into the first time being in a healthy state in their body, mind, and spirit. And you want to help these other providers do the same. So I'm curious, what's it like hiring therapists? Like, do you ever meet therapists who are like a little dumbfounded by how you do things, or are most of them excited?
All the time. It's interesting because in my first rounds of hiring, I was thinking, well, we see very complex patients, so I need someone with lots of experience. And I found that a big number of them were coming in sort of with this idea that you come in, you treat your patients, and you leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not what I wanted to provide. I wanted to provide a relationship. I wanted patients to have a relationship with their physical therapist, that they became their family physical therapist, that they knew all about what they liked. And they also wanted the salary, right? They also wanted, well, I've been practicing for 20 years and, this is how much I'm earning over here. And it was hard for people to see that we at Fluid Physio, we value more than just dollars. It's more than that. Somebody told, I don't remember who it was. Somebody said, follow your passion and the money will follow.
Yep.
So that's what it was like. Okay, so that was challenging, and I found some wonderful therapists. Today, however, I'm actually in the middle of hiring, so I have some fun stories from even last night. There's many more of us now. I can say, oh, we've been practicing. Fluid Physio has been around for 7.5 years, so
Amazing.
It's proven the concept. It's grown again faster than I can imagine. Oh, I didn't plan for the pandemic, but no one did. But we're sort of like, oh my gosh. So today there's many more younger therapists that have been out for a couple of years that understand and see that we need life balance. But again, someone very wise once said, well, it's not about balance. It's about spinning plates. And you spin the plates and you have to keep them spinning. And because it's like, is it really balance? I mean, sometimes my dog doesn't have a walk and I have to give him more attention. And sometimes, something going on. So it's the spinning plates.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had come a little bit more open initially. And so 3 days ago, somebody said, he started out saying, oh, I forget the words he used some technical word to say that he manages 30 employees and he has this and has that. And because I always ask, so what are you looking for? I tried to get in first and ask them, what is it that they're looking for? And oftentimes the person last night, I asked that question and she says, a full-time physical therapy outpatient job. I was like, oh, okay. That's all she wanted.
Yeah. Anyways, very clear.
Yes. So once they go through and tell me what they're looking for, and then I'll say, okay, well, here's what we have to offer. I found out that if I was going to compensate my therapists the traditional way, here's your salary. It didn't give them a sense of ownership to have that relationship with their patients. It was, I could see it. It's like, they're coming in. They cared about the patients very much, but then they have to go home. And so it's like, And there was when, in our practice, I'm very open and pretty transparent with finances. So in every meeting, we talk about, here was the revenue, here's the expenses, how many patients came in. But the focus is on how many patients did we help? It's not how many hours of patients did we see? How many units did we bill? Because we still have units, but, and I said, my number one value is, the core value is people first. And at first I thought about it like, yeah, people first. The patient comes first. It's not their body part. But then it's like, no. But it's also us. our family's comforts. Your kid has a concert, go see your kid in a concert. You need to go home and sleep. Who thinks, go home and sleep. And so it's like our well-being as a person comes first.
Yeah.
And so we only see one patient an hour because it's crazy. I mean, and we cap how many patient hours people can have. So if you're full-time, you're capped at 37 patient hours. We have staff meeting and a PT meeting. And we have occasional weekend something. Like we did a Sauerland spectacular for cycling, and we're going to do a turkey trot and things like that. And it was like, and so the compensation now, I changed it to be more like, for example, dentists or certain physicians in a practice are, that it's more compensation based on the revenue and the patients that they see, not necessarily the revenue. So I offer two choices. Now it's one choice for the less risky people. It's half salary and half depending on how many patients they see. And then the other one, which is a little riskier, but it can bring in more money to their household, is just 100% based on how many patients they see. And then seeing everything, it's a different way. It's not like I'm not spoon feeding them. I'm saying, here's a garden. Let me show you how to, find the right tomato and pick the right carrot. So you can make a delicious salad, and then I'm bringing in the dressing and we're going to eat and have a meal together. So it's a different compensation. And so this guy that said that he manages 30 people says, oh, wow, that is amazing. You gave me something else to think about that I would have never said yes to, because again, that compensation way is not what most of us are used to.
Right.
It's very scary for people. It was very scary for me when I didn't have a job, when I was let go. And for those people that it's when fear strikes, it can make you doubt yourself. And that shows up in how you speak to your patients. And that shows up in how you speak in a meeting. And that's not for everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're offering them ownership of building that rapport and nurturing the relationship. You're also incentivizing them to be connected to doing community events and things like that. It's not just like, oh, I have to do this. My boss said I have to sign up for this thing and it's on a Saturday. And it's, they might still not love the idea of going and doing something on a Saturday, but there's a connection to the community and there's a connection to building their own sort of mini practice inside of your practice. So that's really interesting. I mean, you don't hear about that very often, but I think this is a very interesting and different way to do it. And from my perspective as a leadership person, I think it's excellent leadership. And I would imagine that the younger therapists really embrace that.
Yes.
I just think our millennials and Gen Z want things different, and so you're offering something that's different, that gives them more autonomy and, room to grow instead of just sort of being pigeonholed into a position. So, yeah.
Definitely. I see also the idea that one of the things I say is that I don't want you don't think of me as your boss. Think of me as a leader, right? As a coach. And that's a hard concept for people to think about, that it's not just like, I'm always saying well, what do you think? Sometimes I've been told that it's annoying because I don't give the answers. Can't you just tell me the answer? No.
After you've at least
because then I'm
given
always
me
gonna
3 wrong answers.
Yeah, I'm always gonna have to give you the answers, and I'm always gonna have to be there. And I actually want to be at home because I'm coaching girls on the run, and I want to be at home. Yeah. And so one of my therapists just had a baby, and she says to me,
baby came. Yay. Congratulations.
Yes, full head of hair for Aisha, for Aisha's baby, Daewoo. Um, she said, thank you for providing this and allowing me to do it on my terms, and I see it in her passion for physical therapy. And I see and I hear the way she talks about her family. And why can't we be the best mother, be the best wife, be the best woman to ourselves, and be the best physical therapy, whether it's for 12 hours a week or whether it's for 35 hours a week?
Right.
That to me is bigger than just getting patients better.
So I just got like goose pimply sort of processing that. And so I see this as having a massive impact, right? And I don't know if you see that because you're so close to it, but happy providers, happy, contented, truly contented providers they do things differently. You feel it, you sense it, you may not be able to, one may not be able to put their finger on it, but something is different and it doesn't go unnoticed. And you are very connected with your community, both through efforts that you make to be connected with the community and also that your patients come back. They're not stuck in 12-week or 8-week or 4 appointment cycles, right? They come as they need and they get what they need from you. And I assume that you do train your the other therapists who come in to do things on brand with Fluid Physio.
Yeah.
And so they get to do that as well. So here you are making ripples through your community in so many different ways. There's in economics, the term would be psychic benefits, right? The things that are hard to track, but feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the community, and we were talking about me hiring other people, and that I didn't want to do everything myself. My husband certainly didn't want me to do that either.
Yeah. He'd probably like you to be home occasionally so he can like smile at you and wave. Yeah.
Yes.
While he's splitting wood.
Yes. Yes. Which is really fun. And I'm jealous that he's splitting wood and I'm not right now. So I'm going to go help after this.
We'll get you going soon.
Yes. But when I started noticing that I like to hire, when I hired like my printer, I do newsletters for people that I mail out. My printer, the designer, like it just takes me so long. That's not what yes, I can put together a sign. It takes me forever because of whatever reason. But I could print things from my printer, but that costs more money. Then I have to do stuff. And it's not using my resources in the best way. So I like to hire local people. I like to form connections and relationship with other local businesses. So when it comes to having that, we're doing a video right now. So I hired this videographer. He's so much fun. We always have fun. That's actually another one of my core values, is to have fun. And so when we come together to design something, or when I go to pick up my printing documents, we just have so much fun. And I think that sometimes what's missing from, I'm going to just send this to, I'm going to send this to a big printing company, like a Staples thing, and print it and leave. It's like we get caught up in this, what's the quickest and cheapest way? And we're missing out on connections with people. And so the majority, I think at this point, almost 60% of our patients come from word of mouth. And so the connections that we make from people not only is helping the local community because I'm keeping the business within the local community, but it's like, hey, those are people too. They have families and they have body parts that they might need help with.
Mm-hmm.
And they can say, oh my gosh, I know this physical therapy place. And so it brings back to the community aspect that one of the things, bringing it back to touch, it touches other people's lives in other ways. And, you know, Tracy, you mentioned like, I can't see how big it is and the ripples that it makes, but there's glimpses of it that I do see that I don't quite, I have to go back sometimes and like, oh, this is so much. And like, just like think about it for a moment that it's not just about like, it's bigger. It's not just about me. It's not just about my employee, but how can we make a difference in our world that is so bleh right now?
Yeah,
In so many
right.
ways.
And having that connection, right? I think that's really, that's just key. And I think that's kind of, you know, I was telling you when we were in the green room, that is a real common thread in our clients here at our company and also in the other providers that we've had on the show. It's like that really wanting to make a difference. And it's almost in the realm of it's hard to track, but it does show up.
Yes.
Yeah. Super interesting. So I want to talk to you a little bit, switching gears to like the business side, because I know I remember our first conversation and I remember you saying, I should probably talk to my accountant first. No, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness later, which I thought was hilarious. But you really rely on your relationship with your accountant, who I'm assuming is also local.
Yes.
Well, at least has to be in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
And she helps guide you and helps give you input when you need to make financial decisions or when it's time to make some kind of a change. How has that changed how you do business?
I used to be really scared to spend money. You know, like I said, I started the business and when they kicked me out, I was relying on my mom for groceries. And my almost $1,000 a month student loan had to be put on hold. Yay, more interest for me. And that fear inside, you know, I did a lot of work on figuring out like, where is that coming from? I did a lot, you know, a lot of people have heard of the book or the audiobook, like The Secret, that talks about like, that's when I was first sort of like introduced to the idea of trusting the universe. And being from Colombia, of course, I'm Catholic. So the idea of God, right? I think of God in a different sense. I'm not as religious, but it's like that trust in the unknown that sometimes it's so scary and so like, oh my God, because it's different. It's not something that we're used to. So I realized that, you know what, like getting to know local people and creating those relationships helped me trust them enough. I got to know them and then I started trusting them enough that I said, you know what, I'm paying them money, a significant amount of money that I'm going to trust that they have my best interest. And I've been in situations where I did that and there was something didn't, not so much the numbers where I didn't see the performance necessarily, but I've learned that I need to trust in what my instincts say. Like, listen to me, something doesn't feel right. It's starting to sound salesy and like, hear this and then like, oh wait, I lost money. Or, you know, this didn't work out. Like, what was that for? And be okay that it was only money. It wasn't health. It wasn't kids. It's only money. And it's very difficult. You know, I came to this country with my mom and 2 suitcases. And so providing for my family and money was just such a connection. And so I just that trust, I still have to do it every day. Like I'm trusting, you know, I'm trusting Indeed to provide the right candidates. And I found that if you do the click to pay, or you only pay for the true like quality providers, and that you can interview better. So I figured out, how can I save money, but put money out, and just be okay with it, because at the end of the day, it's only money.
Right. Well, I think, since we've known each other the last few months, you have taken some leaps of faith. I mean, you took a leap of faith to work with me and my team. And I'm always grateful for that, because it is, especially, something like coaching and consulting, it's like an unknown. There are no guarantees. The guarantee is that you'll learn something and you'll grow. Like I don't do what, some of the guru types do, like, 10x your income after 3 weeks working with it. Like, it doesn't work that way. It could, right? If that's your goal, you could certainly make that happen. But you also have invested in spending towards hiring to get a better pool of candidates. And you also invested in a digital marketing campaign. And that is something I have seen time and time again is very hard for providers to like really be willing to do.
That was a big step
huge
for me, because you don't just put out $3,000 here and there. And I had actually, while I was growing, I would put myself, even though I was this tiny little practice with 2 people, I would go, I always call it like, I would go and play with the big kids. I got into I went into a mastermind that, it was only physical therapy practice owners. And they were all sort of like masterminding, and we would meet in Florida and talk about and learn. And everybody, there were people that had like 10 practices, and everybody was insurance based, very traditional. And so I learned so much about like, wait, how much money did you spend? And everybody was like, oh my God, Gianna, if I could do that again, I would be like you. Like, and so I found myself, they also offer cash services. So they were asking me like, how can we learn? How did you do this? And so I found like, oh wow, they're learning from little me. And they were spending back then, so it's only a couple of years ago, it's like, $1,500 on a Facebook ad campaign. And then I was just like, what? I could never imagine. So it took some time to see the constant flow of revenue, to trust that, you know what, the patients will come. And so then I thought, I was like, okay, well, here's my next step to scale, right? Pandemic messed everything. And now it's like, okay, I feel this surge of energy, powered by Tracy also, that has helped me get the clarity to like, okay, here's the next step. And it's hard. And so some people say, oh man, you're going to hire more people, you're going to get more problems. And it's like, yes, and I'm going to get more people that are happier. So to me, that's worth it. And I've actually found the business aspect kind of fun. So that's also fun.
It seems like it, right? When we have conversations about the business side of things, I'm always impressed with how you appear confident. Even so, by the time we're talking about it, you've developed the confidence in it,
Yes.
But I think that it's really key to just point out that you've learned to trust the process. You've learned to trust yourself.
Yes.
And you bring in the right kinds of professionals that work with you to help you meet your goals and aspirations, rather than kind of traveling the traditional route that it's always been done this way route, and I think that that's really impressive. And I think that it's something that for our listeners could inspire them to be willing to kind of let go, as they say in like recovery programs, let go and let God, right? Like it doesn't have to be God, right? It can be whatever faith that you have or faith in your own self, like to release from the fear and look for the path, because it still may not be a linear path, but it becomes much more clear when we release the negative chatter and just try, do our best to stay focused on what we really want to do and coming back to vision, the big why. And I think you do that masterfully. And
thank you.
It's really great to see that, and to see that, also the risks that you've taken are paying off. Right. The digital marketing campaign is, so you
cool.
are working with the amazing Laura Bryant of You Aspire Marketing.
Hey,
she's who I refer all of my clients to, when they have marketing needs. And, she'll send me screenshots sometimes like, girl, this is outperforming any of our other ads. This is amazing, and I think a lot of it has to do with, you already have the reputation. And people maybe, like statistically from a marketing perspective, it takes 8 touches for people to say yes and buy and blah, blah, blah. So all of that, but they've probably seen your logo. They've probably heard from somebody that they go to your practice and just kind of forgot what it was. And then the ad comes across their, screen, and they're like, oh yeah, I need to go there.
I would say the other thing that you just mentioned, Tracy, that I think is important is that when you're first starting, don't think that you're like this little me, right? Get to the basics and get, like, for example, the logo, making the logo was huge. That was actually at one of my past therapists. She was the designer, and we got together and she built the logo for me. And just branding everything, even though I am this small physical therapy practice, I've had people come up to me and say, oh, so are you a franchise? And because I have everything pretty consistent. And so always showing up in big shoes that sometimes I don't even believe I can fill. And all of a sudden, oh my God, I grew, my feet are fitting these shoes and these are getting kind of tight. So I got to go find new shoes.
I love that. I love that. Well, I just so enjoyed our conversation, and I feel like our listeners are going to get so many nuggets of wisdom and inspiration to, that will help motivate for change. So I think, as we're thinking about like how to run a practice like a business, I want to highlight a couple of things. Most providers are not taking business classes. A very small percentage of people I've met who are providers and owners also have gone to business school, right? Or have had another kind of job where they learned about business or came up in a family business, but it's small. It's a small percentage. Yeah. And so you didn't come into this as a business expert, and yet something you said, you're actually having fun with it. Yes. Oh, that is my wish and my hope for everybody who owns a practice. You don't have to be, I think it's challenging having gone through medical school or through, very intensive training to get the certifications and all of that to do what you do. It's really important to recognize where other experts can support you. Yes. And I think that there's some fear that talks through some of that. And there's also the training that's like, you're supposed to show up and be stoic and know everything. And I do see that. I have seen that kind of come into the thinking of some of our clients over the years. Mm-hmm. And it takes a bit to kind of crack that nut. And something that I think, our listeners can take away is that if you're willing to be even just a tiny bit vulnerable, and go, find a trusted advisor, whatever that's, a mentor or a great accountant or a business consultant or whatever, that can make some radical shifts with a very small investment, right? Like it doesn't take a lot of time or a lot of money or a lot of energy even to establish those relationships and to put your trust in their hands. So that's definitely a big takeaway for me. But if you were to give 1 or 2 pieces of advice to someone who either is thinking about starting their own practice or has their own practice and is working on developing and growing and maybe even scaling, what would that be?
You said one or two, but there's just, I mean, make sure that you're enjoying the process and trusting that your relationships and that others will be there for you also, that you don't have to do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, you don't have to do it alone.
It seems like you have to do everything because you have to be your printer, you have to be your accountant, you have to be your social media and marketing and this. And it's like, no, you don't have to do it alone. Use the resources that are there. Start out with free stuff that you can get from Instagram posts, like, oh, this person I really like, I'm going to follow them. Oh, what do they have to say? Mm-hmm. Read books. I started reading so many books. I love Brene Brown. I read all her books and just different books about, I read a lot about business. I just take books and then listen to them because I, doing all the things, listen while I'm going on runs or walks, listen and just pick little bits, right? You don't have to take everything that's provided. Just take what you need and say thank you for the rest. And little by little, trusting that the big picture will come together in your mind, like journaling and just sort of little, one day you're like, oh, this makes sense. I read this somewhere and that makes sense. Oh, and I remember learning this somewhere else. And when you put those two together, wow, I think I'm going to do this. And then asking your patients like, oh, what do you think about this? I had this idea. I come across so many different kinds of patients with so many different backgrounds that it's like, oh, they're a financial advisor. Let me just throw this out there and see what they think while I still keep the treatment about them. Right. And so like everyone loves to talk about what they do. Everyone loves to talk about their passion. So that's where starting that conversation and asking about others will oftentimes bring you back to what is it that I want to show up as or for or, be.
So good. Well, we have probably two ways of thinking about how people might want to get in touch with you. One, if they're in the area and they're in need of some support with their body parts, how can they find you? But also like maybe there's some people who might just like to learn more about your journey and connect with you. How can they get in touch with you?
They can go right to our website, fluidphysio.com. That'll be in the notes. And I'm actually in the middle of writing a book also, well, in the process. And so a lot of what I'm saying about trusting and about making relationships and about the touching, that's coming up. So stay tuned. And I think the website would be the best part. And for your listeners, if you want to reach me by email also, Gianna at Fluid Physio is an email.
Awesome. We'll provide that in the notes as well. Well, I'm just, I'm so proud of you, all the work that you've done. And really, you've grown a ton personally, professionally, and your business has grown since we've started working together. And it's just
for sure.
It's such a joy and such a pleasure to see you in all your radiance, really owning your power and embracing that that it's okay that the shoes are too big right now. I see you do that regularly. And I think you've had to upsize your shoes a couple of times just in the short period of time that we've been working together. Yeah. So I love that. And I just so appreciate you coming on the show. And also thank you for trusting me and my team on your journey.
Thank you for having me. And thank you to everybody that's listening.
Thank you so much, Gianna. Take good care.
You too. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thriving Practice. I appreciate you. And I have an ask. If you got value from this show, make sure to share it. You can give a shout out on social media or tell your friends and colleagues about it. You can also subscribe so you never miss a show. To learn more about how we work with practice owners to help them take back their time, head over to tracytrupesky.com. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter, which has tips and tools for your practice success. A special thanks to our incredible team, and thanks to you, our dear listener, for sharing the gift of your time and attention. I wish you so much success as you continue to move forward in your day. If I can be a resource to you, let's schedule a time to talk. You can find the scheduling link on our website.